Hello, Not Manly here, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where I'm dragging out a craft I built back when I first attempted this playthrough. This is the first orbiter I could build from Tier 5 parts. As you can see, it has lots and lots of fuel tanks, lots and lots of engines, lots and lots of decouplers, and lots of room for 4 purples. This was built as a tourist orbiter, but I'm going to try to pare this down. Look at it, it's almost 120 parts. It's a monster. This could probably get to Duna and back in regular Kerbal Space Program, but this is Kerbal Space Program from Eve. This thing barely made orbit back in the original Alien Space Program. Let's see how well it does here in Ohio Bob's realistic atmospheres. We're going to pare this down. We're going to add where is it? There it is. We're going to add the experimental storage units so Jebediah can quickly copy experiments out without having to transmit them home. We're going to try to fix the heat shielding. We're going to add some more science. There's our container, our service bay. But then I realized the service bay is in the wrong place. I don't want to bother returning the service bay, but at the same time that decoupler's in the wrong place. There we go. Put the service bay under the decoupler. Jeb can always retrieve science from inside that service bay. So instead of Orbiter 2, it's simply just Orbiter, and there we go. And then for the first time I take a look at the numbers for Kerbal Engineer, and it looks like we have in total nearly 6 kilometers per second. You would think that would be enough to get into Eve orbit, and then some. But then I remember, wait a minute, I've got career mode turned on here. We need the actual Kerbal Engineer module installed. So I'm just tuck it in here to the top of the service bay. There we go. Come on. How long did it take me to put this thing in here? There we go. And now this thing's ready for launch. There's Jebediah waiting on the launch pad. This is a monster. Because we have struts and fuel ducts unlocked in the tree, we have got cross-feed enabled, so I don't have any fuel lines installed, and I've got auto struts to try to keep the part count down. There we go, try to arrange that. I've got tank priorities set on here. Thanks to the decoupling order, it's already set priorities for me, but I do some further adjustments just to make sure. And I've got the fuel indicators up so I know when to detach those spent fuel tanks and rockets. And come on. Just about ready for launch, and there we go. There goes Jebediah on our first attempt in this playthrough to get to the orbit of Eve. This is a monster. It's using a modified asparagus-style staging. We're not just detaching 2 tanks at a time, we're detaching maybe half of our tanks at a time. And the air is still so thick it just destroys those tanks upon detach. It was kind of a hybrid of asparagus and onion staging. And there we go. Blowing up on the launch pad. I have SCAs turned off on here. Let the rocket and the atmosphere kind of fly itself and let gravity do the turn for me. Hence the name Gravity Turn. There goes our second stage, even more explosive than the last. And up we go. This monster is through the worst of the atmosphere. Atmosphere density much closer to Kerbin right now. I'm looking at that and we're climbing rather quickly, and time to apoapsis is climbing rather quickly. We seem to have more than enough fuel, more than enough engines for this, and there's the next stage. And I'm thinking, well, do I want to begin forcing this turn or not? I'm sitting there going, I'm trying to remember what happened the last time. Back in the old version, I had to start this turn around 22 kilometers. Here I've already got the turn started. We've already got apoapsis up to 36, 37, 38. Remember, the atmosphere ends at 55 kilometers in this version, and we're already at 42 and climbing. Time to AP is climbing. Do a little bit of rearranging of the staging here. There we go. We are still on those Atom liquid fuel engines, those Eve optimized engines, but soon we're going to be off of those and on our first non-Eve optimized engine, the swivel engine, known and loved by KSP players everywhere. We've already well cleared the atmosphere at perhaps 70 kilometers, so I throttle back, let gravity try to work on completing the turn for me. And I'm like, boy, is this craft overpowered or what? About 3.5 kilometers per second, and we're already outside of Eve's atmosphere at 64 kilometers, and we got over 3 kilometers per second delta V remaining. Look at that. And we're already on the swivel. The second most efficient engine up for us, aside from the Terrier, which we haven't started using yet. So I'm looking at this and going, I need at least 2 kilometers per second, and I've got still just over 3. Now I begin my acceleration to get into orbit, to close my orbit, and I just end up burning flat on the horizon. I want to get horizontal speed as quickly as I can. I have no idea if we can do it before descending back into the atmosphere, but we're throttling for our life. Jebediah's just hanging on by the skin of his teeth. Come on, Jeb, we know you can do this. Time to AP is still pretty high. It's starting to drop, but we're getting up there. And Jeb is going and going and going and going. We are at about Kerbal orbital velocity now, but we need another kilometer per second almost to do Eve orbital velocity. And we're still going and still going and still going. It looks like we're going to make it, but I'm not sure at this point. 1700 meters per second, 1600, and dropping 1500. How much delta V are we going to need to get into orbit? Oh, we wait until we coast a little bit more. We have more than enough, it seems, so we just get a little closer to AP and make this a little more efficient. And there we go. And there's our periapsis. We have entered orbit. We got a PE of 86 kilometers. We are above the ground and we are in orbit with delta V to spare. Look at that. Jebediah Kerman, the first purple in orbit. And there we go. Yeah, we're staying in space. But we're not done yet. Just getting into space and getting into orbit is enough. We pay a quick visit to Gene over at Mission Control, and we've got do a spacewalk in Eve and return from orbit back to Eve. These are freebies. If you can, go and take them. Look at that. The Kerbal Broadcasting Corporation having a thing to say about that. And so Jeb goes on his EVA. Does a quick EVA report. Our first EVA report. Congratulations, Jebediah, once again with the first and storing everything in the storage module. Yes, we have performed a spacewalk. Yeah, get back in the ship before this becomes a rescue mission. We'll have plenty of those to come in a bit. Until then, Jebediah is gathering more EVA reports as he flies over each biome that he can. Amazing, absolutely amazing. Look at that dense cloud work on Eve. Hats off to the oh my goodness. Hats off to the Stock Visual Enhancements crew for that beautiful cloud cover. We'll try to quickly go through this at full-time speed. But I want to see if we can get a little higher here. So I coast up to Periapsis and we see if we can get high space science above Eve. I don't even know where high space is at this point. But hey, there we go. Transferring everything back to that storage module just in case. And there we go. How high do we need to go? Do we need to go to 200,000? Do we need to go to 250 like it is back at Kerbal? Do we need to go higher? I don't know. But then we get up to 300 kilometers, and then I take a look, and I'm like, nope, we're still near Eve. We're not high above Eve. Rather than risk any more fuel or Jeb's safety, we try to bring him back. Bring PE below the atmosphere. I just take a wild guess. I'm trying to think about what would be back at Kerbal. Usually it'd be about 35 kilometers. The atmosphere here is not quite as thick this high up. Ended up deciding to go about 33 kilometers up. Hopefully we don't hit a brick wall only to break this craft apart. As we lose the fins and our booster craft blows up in bits and pieces in the distance. Then I take a look at, like, why am I burning up any ablator? Have I run out of ablator? And I take a closer look and I find out there are 2 heat shields attached. I attached an extra heat shield up there. That's why we got 200 and out of 400 there. But it looks like even a heat shield without any ablator is enough to protect this command pod for re-entry from at least low Eve orbit. So down we go. Can't even see the sun. The air and the clouds are so thick. Barely see the outline of that. Deploying our drogue chutes. I had no idea what to expect, so we had drogue chutes attached there first, had them go off, and then the main chute. Wow, look at that. That real thick cloud cover above Eve. Turns out the drogues actually seemed to be enough. Once we got down low enough, we were able to do a little walkabout, just attached, just hanging off of the pod at a mere 3.5 meters per second. But eventually Jeb settles down, comes to a very gentle landing in the highlands of Eve, halfway around the planet. Brings back nearly 160 science. Congratulations, Jebediah. Once again, the first purple to do something useful. Look at that. We're all halfway around the world trying to get back here. And yet Jeb can just teleport right back here. Yes, we have returned from the surface. Yep, we made it. You can stop kissing the ground now, Jeb. You're safe. And just by doing that, we have a new contract on the very bottom. Explore Gilly. Gilly is the only moon of Eve. With any luck, we can get there in an episode or 2 and get even more science. In the meantime, if we're going to do anything intelligent, we need to upgrade our facilities. At the very least, the tracking station. We are going to need flight planning, which will give us maneuver nodes in orbit. Since we got cash to burn, let's also get the spaceplane hangar upgraded. I want action groups, and let's get the runway upgraded as well. We want bigger airplanes for longer trips. But anything Jebediah can do, Valentina can do better, and we're sending her up to high space to try to get what Jeb had missed. And there she goes. We've already done this before, so we're just going to cut out the boring bits. Boring bits now. Having done this once, how so boring, isn't it? We're giving Jeb flight experience, we're giving Valentina flight experience as well. And now we've got maneuver nodes, we actually have a better idea of how to get into orbit. We are not quite clear of the atmosphere. PE is only 54k, we got to get a little more. Oh, there we go, 56. That's plenty. And now we're over at PE. Let's see how high we need to climb to get to high space. This time we set our sights higher at about 400 kilometers. Is that high enough? We'll soon find out. High above Eve, there we go at 401. Gather our science. There you go, Valentina. Getting what Jeb could not get. Collect all. Whoop! Could not store all items. We have a mystery goo that we have not yet copied the data from. So Val hops out and goes out to the mystery goo. Let's see if we can get it and then just put the science in the command pod. Always good to take 2 of those instruments at a time. Take 2 copies up. You get the most science for your trip. And there we go. Put that in the command pod, Val, and let's get you back home safe. There you go, all aboard. Now I'm a little worried. I don't know how high we can get back without burning up and exploding. So I decide to coast back to PE here and lower our orbit some. Make it nice and safe for Val to get back. That way she's not screaming in, possibly blowing up our command pod. And there we go. After that we do some further adjustment. We try to land a little closer to the Space Center. There goes our booster. Yeah, real gentle. There you go, Val. And only 1 heat shield, little less mass to carry up. Look at those beautiful re-entry trails there. And the re-entry particle effect mod, all it does is turn on a feature already built into Kerbal Space Program and just isn't used. And look at that. Valentina Kerman back from high space. And nice and safe. And a new version of Ferrum Aerospace Research, which was just released this week, fixes the drogue chutes. Now they're more like drogue chutes and not like miniature real chutes. We have to launch the real chute this time. And Valentina splashes down safe. There we go. Welcome home, Valentina, from high space. Let's get you back home, maybe after a quick EVA. And there we go. And Valentina brings back 146 science. Congratulations, Valentina Kerman. The highest purple to fly above Eve. But along the way, Valentina noticed something, and she made sure to note it in her little crew report. 2 very bright lights, even brighter than the big purple brightness of Eve. That blue and grey light pair just right there. Stirs some memories for Valentina that she never thought she had. But in the meantime, back in the R&D lab, we start researching some additional parts. We pick up aerodynamics to be able to build larger planes. And here I am trying to think, do I want better maneuverability? Do I want more parts? Do I want larger rockets? I'm not sure. In the end, I decide maneuverability is important, and also connectivity is more important too. We want to be able to assemble craft in orbit if we're going anywhere near Gilly. Then I also decide here we need these parts here, especially that 1.25 meter fairing. We get that. We'll get landing next time. We'll get a little more science later on, and we'll be able to get better landing wheels. So yeah, I decide let's get the fairing. And also we will get the docking ports. But we'll make use of those in a future episode. Until then, I'm not manly. Fly safe.